After years of covering their debts, my family cut me out of the wedding. I froze their cards, canceled contracts, and took back what I had paid. My family assumed I existed to clean up their mess and pay their debts. Everything went apart when I stopped. They termed it a betrayal. I call it finally waking up. But let's start from the beginning. It was about 10 p.m., and the office was silent except for the sound of the printer and my keyboard. I'd been working on a commercial offer worth around $50,000 for one of our recurring clients. I recall feeling fatigued yet satisfied. The company needed the deal, and I was finally seeing the light after 2 difficult months. My phone vibrated. My sister Olivia sent out a group SMS. "You're out of the wedding planning. Aiden thinks it's best." That was the last straw. There's no explanation. No, thank you for everything. Nothing. Just one line. I sat there for a minute gazing at it, hoping for a follow-up, but the conversation remained silent. I scrolled up and noticed the group's name, Family Wedding Crew, which included Mom, Dad, Olivia, and her fiancé Aiden. My own parents were in there, but neither said anything. I phoned home. Mom picked up. "Don't start the drama, Liam," she moaned. "Drama?" I asked. "I just got a text saying I'm out of the wedding. I already paid $8,000 for this thing." "You're making everything about money again," she added, as if it were the biggest crime in the world to keep track of your expenses. Then I heard Dad's voice in the background. "Let them handle it, Liam. You're too controlling." "I'm handling the bills you told me to handle," I informed you. "That's what I was doing, Dad. They'll figure it out. You always make things harder than they need to be." I hung up before saying something worse. I sat back in my chair and gazed around the office. A framed picture from last year's corporate cookout stood on my desk. Everyone smiled, even Olivia and Aiden, who at the time referred to me as the family's rock. I opened my laptop again, navigated through files, and instructed Lily, our bookkeeper, to back up every document bearing my name. "All of it?" she inquired, wiping her eyes. "Yeah, contracts, invoices, accounts, everything I signed or paid for." She didn't inquire why. She had worked with me long enough to recognize when anything was wrong. While she was working on the backup, I went through my email receipts. I paid the venue deposit of $3,500 with my own credit card. The floral deposit is $500. The tuxedo rentals were invoiced to our firm, Foster Enterprises, and issued in my name only for convenience. The honeymoon deposit was made in my name since Aiden's credit card limit was too low. All those transactions and confirmations were nicely arranged in my inbox. Then I opened my spreadsheet and created a new line at the bottom. So far, the wedding has cost $9,750. I wasn't furious, honestly. It suddenly struck me how simple it was for them to remove me from something I had almost manufactured for them. Olivia had been concerned for months about Aiden's inconsistent income, and Mom kept telling me, "Don't worry, Liam will handle it." So I did what I'd always done. I remembered back to December, when the venue requested a deposit. Olivia called weeping about how they would miss the date if they didn't pay that day. I paid it. Next comes the dress. She said she'd Venmo me next week. That happened 4 months ago. Then there's the company payroll problem. Dad said, "Spot us for 2 weeks, son. We've got a slow client." I covered it. 2 weeks went into 6. It wasn't one large betrayal, it was 100 tiny ones, and I'd let them all go. Lily finished the backup and gave me a flash drive. "Here," she answered. I slid it inside my pocket. "Thanks. Go home. I'll lock up." Before I left, I erased the wedding group chat from my phone. This is not the old family thread. That one, I had only muted. This was the wedding-only thread. Then I accessed my work email and created a new folder for wedding payments. I moved every confirmation, invoice, and communication into there. The list took over half the screen. The workplace was black save for the monitor's brightness. The quote for that client was still open, waiting for the final numbers. I saved the file, closed my laptop, and turned out the lights. My phone vibrated again as I walked out. A text from Mom. "Please don't make this harder for your sister." "No thanks." "No, let's speak about it." Just another order disguised as a courtesy. I didn't respond. By the time I arrived at the parking lot, the night air seemed frigid. I stood there for a second, staring back at the office windows and reflecting on how much time I'd wasted trying to keep everyone else's world going while mine remained on hold. That's when something clicked. If they wanted me out of the wedding, that's great. They may potentially be out of my money, my patience, and my free time resolving every problem they caused. I opened my truck, placed the flash drive in the center console and started the engine. They cut me out of a group text, I explained to no one. Then I pushed the vehicle into drive. Fine. They can handle the bill. You now know what occurred. Let me tell you a bit about ourselves. My name is Liam Foster. I am 32 years old and the operations manager for our family's construction firm, Foster Construction and Design. My father, Robert, established it in the late 1990s. Victoria, Mom, manages customer relations, which consists primarily of gossip and lunch meetings. I'm in charge of everything, including staff management, payroll, and bids. My sister, Olivia, does not work there. She is an influencer or attempts to be. Her fiancé, Aiden, is always hovering about, talking about enormous chances. The next morning, I sat down to my workstation, accessed the shared accounts, and began checking for anything with my name on it. Every transaction. Each invoice. It wasn't rage that motivated me. Curiosity had run out of patience. Dad has used the same remarks my entire life. Mom usually added her version. You're lucky you make more. We'll pay you back when the refinance goes through. There was always another refinance. Another excuse. I continued to mend everything since that is what I had always done. While going through receipts, I reflected on how this trend never ceased. Even at work, Dad brags about me to clients. My son's the brains of this place. He then addressed me as kid in front of the workforce. I had grown this firm into something orderly, prosperous, and reliable, yet I was still viewed as a spare part that could be replaced whenever they wanted. Around lunchtime, our attorney, Samuel Grant, stopped by to finish some permits for a small commercial project. He's the sort who talks about problems as if they were petty paperwork. We went over signatures, project numbers, and everything seemed okay until he flicked through a folder and said, "By the way, that ownership transfer went through. Aiden's now a 15% partner." I paused. Partner? Where? Samuel remarked, touching the firm name in the header. Foster Construction. I frowned. With what money? He squinted at the file. They reclassified your prior loan advances as a capital contribution under your name, then issued Aiden 15% against that papered equity. I remained silent for a full 10 seconds. You're telling me I paid for it? He shrugged. That's what it says. He shut the folder. I assumed you approved it. He left before I could stand up. I headed directly to Lily's desk. She glanced up, puzzled. We're changing access, I explained. Today what? All company cards except mine, cancel them. Auto payments off. Move active login to my account only. Do it quietly. She wasn't paying attention. That's going to upset them. They'll live, I replied. She opened her laptop and said, "Start with the AMI." I stood with her until she confirmed the deactivation email. I was not taking any more chances. Back in my office, I accessed our bank login and reviewed recent spending. Several payments labeled consultancy fee and marketing incentive were in Aiden's name. They had not been there 2 weeks prior. I took screenshots of everyone and stored them on a flash drive. I opened the drawer and took out all of my paper statements from the last year. Each line conveyed the same story. I'm paying them, as promised. Around 3, Mom phoned. I responded because I knew she would keep trying. Your father says the company cards aren't working, she told me. They're canceled. Why would you do that? Aiden needs access now that he's a partner. He can use his own, I explained. That's not very supportive, Liam. I'm done supporting grown adults. I told her, if you wanted him to have control, you should have used your money, not mine. She moaned into the phone. You're always so cold. Maybe if you stopped taking advantage, I'd warm up again. I said goodbye. By late afternoon I had changed passwords, updated signatures, and made a secret email backup. Lily arrived with printed confirmation reports. All cards but yours are disabled. Auto pays off. Payroll lists on your desk. Thanks, I said. Go home early. She agreed, still concerned. When she departed, I retrieved the accounts payable vendor list. Except for 2 names, which were related to Aiden's consulting connections, they all matched. I had never met them, no W-9s, addresses, or shell vendors. I saved copies and combined the vendor mismatches into a clean package. I then sent them to myself. Subject line. Personal record. Like I had done 100 times before while covering up my family's trash. Only this time, I was not covering anything. At 6, Dad stepped in, upset. What the hell did you do to the cards? They were being misused. I responded. You don't get to decide that. I just did, I said. If Aiden is a partner, He can cover his own expenses. His cheeks flushed. You think you're smarter than everyone else? No, I answered, packing my laptop. Just be more careful. He began another remark, but I was already out the door. That night at home, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, adding a last note to the spreadsheet I had created the night before. Personal funds spent on family or company, unreimbursed, $30,000. Next to that, I wrote a single line. No more. I closed the laptop and gazed at the dark screen for a second. I was raised to believe that being responsible entailed mending everything, paying, controlling, and smoothing things out. Turns out, all it did was make me an easy target. The next morning, I was finished pondering. I arrived at the workplace early, opened my laptop and pulled up every wedding vendor contract that was still in my name. The first one was the venue. I called, gave them the contract number and said, cancel it. The booking's under Liam Foster. The manager pondered for a second before confirming. Refunds are returned to the original cards. I proceeded down the list. Florist, caterer, tuxedo rental, and honeymoon trip agency. Every call was brief and friendly. I did not explain or justify anything. When they inquired what happened, I answered, plans changed. Refund confirmations arrived in my inbox by afternoon. The monies were posted over the next few working days. I created a new folder on my desktop. Refunds are verified. I dropped each PDF inside as soon as it arrived. That stack would become Exhibit A. It felt like sorting laundry. There was no emotion involved, I was simply cleaning up what was already mine. By 10 o'clock I was halfway through reviewing our job site bills, when the office door crashed open. Aiden strolled in with his typical too-tight shirt and bad fragrance. You can't just pull funding, he continued, his voice stern. I did not even glance up. It wasn't funded, I said. Was a refund, made a big difference. He approached my desk. You think you're hurting me? You're just screwing over your sister? Then maybe she should have checked who signed the checks before she sent that text, I remarked. He stood there, breathing heavily, trying to appear tough. You've got a problem with me. Take it up directly, he told me. I answered. You're terminated as an employee, partner or not, you're cut off from spend and systems. Leave the office. He laughed. You can't cut me off. I'm a partner. Then use your 15% to pay your own vendors, I told you. Conversation's over. He opened his lips again, but I gestured toward the door. Out. He stayed there for a few seconds more before shouldering past. He cut dangerously near to Lily's desk. A single sheet skated to the ground. He did not glance back. Lily glanced at me as she scooped them up. What was that about? Nothing I can't handle, I said. Just clearing out more dead weight. Soon after Dad arrived. His tone was the same blend of annoyance and faux authority he used whenever he thought shouting would solve problems. I just got a call from Aiden. What the hell are you doing? Cleaning up my accounts, I explained. You're making a scene. The wedding's next month. Then maybe use your card next time, I suggested as I gathered the necessary files. Don't walk away from me, Liam. I walked by him anyhow. I'm not leaving, I'm just done being your bank. I left him standing in the hallway, red-faced and stuttering. By the afternoon my phone had blown up. First, Mom's messages. You've gone too far. Then Olivia's message surfaced on social media. She penned a lengthy paper on how her toxic brother had wrecked her particular day due to jealousy. When individuals need others to side with them, they publish things like this. I did not make a remark. I did not even read the full thing. However, by the evening, the remarks had turned. People were questioning who had paid for what. Some of our relatives jumped in, reminding her who had paid the deposits. Then screenshots started appearing. Old images of me signing venue papers. I received messages from her thanking me for paying. I didn't release anything, but the internet doesn't need help discovering receipts. Mom made 3 calls that night. I let it ring. Dad texted once. Fix this before you embarrass everyone. I did not respond to him either. When I arrived the next morning, Lily was already at her desk. She seemed nervous. Your family's all over Facebook, she added. I figured, I informed her. She paused. You okay? I checked the inbox. Another set of refund confirmations had arrived overnight. I placed them to the folder without glancing at her. Better than before, I said. She nodded and returned to work. For the remainder of the day I kept my head down. I viewed every email, phone conversation and project as normal maintenance. That's exactly what it was, maintenance. I was not sabotaging anything. I was only removing my name from the confusion. By dusk I had turned off the computer and sat for a minute in the silence. The office was empty again, just as the night I received the SMS. The only change was that the weight was gone. There are no outstanding balances, split payments, or false thankfulness waiting to expire. Just clear the books. My phone vibrated once more. Olivia sent a text this time. Just one line. "I hope you're happy," I said, setting the phone face down on the desk and rising. They sought a villain to blame. Fine. They may have one. I secured the door, turned out the lights, and exited the building. When they demand an apology, the silence becomes louder. By early summer, everything had cracked. The family group chat, which I had muted months ago, began to light up again. I simply looked since the alerts didn't stop. "You owe your sister happiness. You'll embarrass us if you don't fix this." I left it unread after that. The next morning I began receiving calls from merchants we had worked with for years. The first was Evergreen Supply, which handled our lumber orders. The manager sounded uneasy. "Hey Liam, just wanted to double check the new billing email. It says A Consulting now. Is that legit?" I froze for a second. "Where did you get that address?" "From Robert. He said it was the updated office contact." "Don't send anything to it," I instructed him. "Keep using the old invoices. Nothing changes until I say otherwise." After hanging up, I scanned the business email. Sure enough, a new thread appeared that morning. I forwarded contracts from Dad's account to Aiden at econsulting.com. No explanation, no copy for me or Lily. Just discreetly redirected funds. Aiden was attempting to create his own side door into our accounts. I headed out to the main office. Lily was typing quickly, frightened. "They're acting weird," she remarked. "Your mom and Aiden both called asking for the master invoice log. Said they needed to adjust billing dates." "Don't send it," I said. She nodded. "They said you told me to do it." "I didn't." She paused. "They also want me to sign last month's purchase orders retroactively backdated to March." "Did you?" "No," I stalled. "Good. Keep copies of everything they ask for, every text, every file. Don't argue with them, just save it somewhere safe." Her voice lowered. "Liam, this is fraud, isn't it?" "Maybe," I said. "Just protect yourself. I'll handle the rest." I returned to my office, closed the door, and examined the shared drives. Half of the corporate folders had been renamed. Aiden's initials appeared on each of them. EHC, JOBS, EH Core Payroll Consolidation Levels. He was attempting to create a mirror firm out of ours, utilizing our relationships and contracts. In June, the accounting software began sending out identical vendor alerts. Nobody acted on them. That afternoon, Dad walked in without knocking. He had an untucked shirt and a flushed face. "What the hell are you doing locking us out of our own system?" "I didn't lock you out," I explained. "You tried to create new ones. I'm hearing from suppliers saying you're blocking payments." "I'm blocking fraud. Watch your mouth, kid," he yelled. "You don't call your father a fraud. Then stop approving fake invoices." He gazed at me as if he wasn't sure whether to shout or throw something. Instead, he stated, "You're destroying this family." "No," I said. "You did that when you let Aiden touch the books." He slammed the door on his way out. Later that week, I began hearing whispers from foremen on the construction sites. Subcontractors complained that they had not been paid in 2 months. I examined our expense log. The payments were marked as sent, however the account numbers did not match our regular vendors. Aiden's email trail was all over them. I phoned one of the subcontractors directly. "This is Liam from Foster Construction. Have you received your payment for May?" "Not a dime," the person said. "We were told to resubmit the invoice to a new address." "Some consulting firm." "What name?" "A Consulting." I gave up pretending to be astonished. That night, after everyone had departed, I sat in the darkened office, only the monitor lighting the room. I went through every accounting folder I could find and downloaded everything. Transactions, pay stubs, bank statements, and any other questionable entries associated with Aiden's name. When it was finished, I created an encrypted archive on my disk. It took 3 hours. Every file and document had to be double-checked, renamed, and dated. I did not change or remove anything from the corporate servers. I just made sure I had a clear record of what happened before anyone tried to change history. By midnight, I had a nice record of what my family had evolved into. Fake vendors, misdirected money, and an increasing number of delinquent invoices. The next morning, Lily appeared weary. She said Robert arrived at a working site and began ranting at employees, accusing them of ruining the firm. He claimed that the underpaid subs were the result of office blunders. Some men threatened to walk. One has already quit on the spot. I instructed her to stay out of it and keep her head down. Don't take calls from my parents, I told them. If they need something, they can come through me. She gave a grimace. Liam, how bad is it? Bad enough that I'm keeping everything backed up, I said. That's all you need to know. By the weekend, the corporate atmosphere had died. Clients were phoning to report delays, employees were questioning if they would still get paid, and my parents kept pretending everything was okay. At home, Mom left me another voicemail. I don't understand why you're trying to hurt us. Family should stick together. I erased it before listening to the rest. The fact was that I didn't mean to injure anyone. I was only trying to make sure their filth didn't bury me too. That Sunday night, I sat down at my kitchen table again. The previously mentioned flash disk was connected into my laptop. I opened my encrypted archive and began scrolling through the data. Vendor lists, payroll, bank transactions, hundreds of emails. They used to call me the safety net. Now I was just gathering whatever dropped through it. By July, things had reached a breaking point. Every day the workplace felt heavier. Quiet halls, dropped calls, and half the workforce walking on eggshells. That morning, I arrived early to finalize a bid and saw Robert and Aiden already waiting in my office. Both were standing with arms crossed. It was not a meeting. This was an ambush. Robert spoke first. We've had complaints, he stated. You're creating instability. From who? I inquired. Clients, he said abruptly. They're nervous. You're cutting people off, questioning invoices, making it look like we're disorganized. I looked at Aiden. We are disorganized. Aiden jumped in. This attitude is the problem. You're making everyone think something shady is going on. There is something shady going on, I muttered. You rerouted vendor payments to your shell company. Robert slapped his hand into the desk. Enough. You're not accusing family of theft. I'm stating facts, I explained. He moved closer. You're out of control. You're making us look bad. I returned his gaze before ceasing to provide reasons for others to look. He groaned and turned to his phony, calm voice. We need to take a step back, a temporary leave, just until things cool down. I understood what that meant. So, you're firing me? No, he said swiftly. Just a break, right? I asked. Send me the paperwork. Aiden grinned, as if he had won something. We'll have our attorney draw it up. I nodded, sat down, and waited while Robert took out a document from his briefcase. The newspapers had already been printed. He did not even bother to disguise it. Sign here, acknowledging voluntary leave, he ordered. I skimmed it. Standard release, no severance, no liabilities. I signed there. Problem solved. Good, Robert said, relaxing somewhat. We'll handle things from here. I'm sure you will. Before they could say anything further, I switched on my computer, plugged in my flash drive, and discreetly transferred the remaining data from the shared system. Project files, communications, payroll data, and final parts. Aiden saw and started his mouth to complain, but I interrupted him. It's my work. I'm taking what's mine. When the progress indicator reached 100%, I ejected the drive, placed it in my pocket, and stood up. We're done here. Robert attempted to add something further about family loyalty, but I had already walked past them. Neither followed. That afternoon, I was at home, browsing through emails, when the doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole. Olivia stood there with smeared mascara and shaky hands. I opened the door halfway. You ruined everything, she said quickly. You couldn't handle not being in charge, so you burned it all down. No, I said. I stopped paying for your fantasy. You're unbelievable, she said. You're supposed to be my brother. I was right up until you cut me out on a group text. She started weeping and then yelled again. Everything poured out in waves. The wedding was canceled, people were gossiping, and Mom thought I had lost it. I did not interrupt. I simply stood there till she ran out of things to say. My laptop dinged on the desk behind me. The venue management sent out an email. Per your request, we have reinstated the original wedding booking. Please confirm the payment details. I opened it and read it again. The message matched my style. Same subject line and signature block. I extracted the complete headers. The original IP address was resolved to my parents' house Wi-Fi. I switched the screen to face Olivia. Tell Mom to at least change the subject line next time. She froze, her face drained of color. What are you talking about? I'm talking about your family impersonating me to steal back a reservation I paid for. That's not true, she responded, but her voice broke halfway through. I shut the laptop and walked back from the door. You should go. Olivia paused for a while before leaving without saying anything further. Only the sound of her car's tires tearing off shattered the silence. That night, I looked through the company's insurance folder. It was something I had ignored for years since it was always buried behind tax filings and renewal notices. This time, I took my time. Halfway through, I discovered a key person policy that listed myself as the insured. 3 months ago, someone filed an ownership change from Foster Construction to Victoria Foster, followed by a beneficiary update naming Olivia. Premium reimbursements were still processed via the firm. I slumped back in my chair, staring at the paper. They'd set it up so that if anything happened to me, she could collect. I laughed once, not furious, but exhausted. It seemed like confirmation of what I already understood. They no longer saw me as family, but as a resource. My phone vibrated on the table. A text from Mom. You'll regret crossing us. I replied back, already don't. I hung up the phone and started a new spreadsheet. I dubbed it, Clean Report July, something a court reporter might say without thinking twice. I began listing all transactions related to me. Loans, reimbursements, deposits, refunds, everything. There are no changes or opinions, just the truth. I labeled the file Exhibit B in my notes and saved it twice once I finished. Once locally, and once while driving. They expected me to fight, but there was nothing left to quarrel about. They wanted anarchy, I wanted records, they assumed I would fight. I've recently started documenting. By the fall, the Fosters were pretending that everything was good again. Olivia and Aiden had a fast courthouse wedding. There was no dress or guests, only a photograph in front of a brick wall with the inscription, Simple love greater than big drama. It resembled a hostage portrait. I did not remark or text. A week later, she messaged me again. Can I borrow $5,000 to get ahead on bills? Aiden's commission hasn't cleared yet. I gazed at the message for a minute before responding. Sure, you'll get a loan agreement shortly. I opened a contract template from my files, added her name, set the interest rate to 6% for 6 months, and included a collateral provision that used her engagement ring as security if the loan defaulted. There are no manipulations, only clear legal wording. I signed it and delivered it as a PDF. 2 hours later, the document returned with her digital signature at the bottom. There's no message attached. I transferred the funds, no emoticons, no congratulations, business only. The next morning, I met Lily in a cafe near the industrial park. She seemed exhausted, but serene. I slipped 2 tiny files across the table, one labeled, Refunds Confirmed, and the other a collection of corporate accounts. She looked at them, then at me. Are you sure you want me to handle this? Yes, I answered. Submit everything clean. No favors for anyone. Not for me. Not for them. She opened the files and flipped through the pages. There are a lot of mismatched numbers here. I know. Don't fix them. Just file them the right way. She nodded slowly. This is going to raise questions. Good, I said. We ate breakfast mainly in quiet. When we stood up to depart, she paused. Liam, if this goes south, they're going to blame you. They already did, I responded. This just gives them a reason they can't argue with. Over the next 2 weeks, Lily completed the company's year-end bookkeeping. She didn't hide anything. Every duplicate invoice, every fraudulent vendor, and every spend in Aiden's name. The system reconciliation program detected the discrepancies automatically. After then, we had no control over anything else. It did not take long. Within 10 days she sent me a brief email from our accounting software vendor. The subject line stated, Account irregularities detected. Flagged to your connected external CPA. An audit-ready packet is available upon request. She added one line underneath. It's done. I answered, thank you. That was all. No big speech, no fear, simply a process that does what it was designed to do. Record and correct. A few days later I packaged up some items for Olivia. I didn't owe her a present, but I wanted to end the loop. I used a matte black box that was basic and clean. Inside, I kept a printed copy of her signed loan agreement, the actual refund receipt from the wedding venue, and a little metal plaque engraved with 3 words, paid in full. I eventually left the box with the front desk worker at her apartment complex. No note, she would understand either way. That following evening my phone vibrated with a voicemail. Samuel Grant, the family lawyer, is sounding wary. Hey Liam, just a heads up. The auditors requested full company records. Not sure what triggered it, but it's official now. Call me back when you can. I did not call him back. I listened once, then saved and deleted it. At that time, I was no longer upset. I wasn't even intrigued about how it would turn out. I'd spent months watching my family use every scenario to their advantage. The system they'd exploited was finally paying attention. It wasn't vengeance. It was mathematics. Each action had a record. Every untruth had a timestamp. All I did was quit cleaning up their mess. Following that, things settled down at work. I still had side ventures and a few loyal clients that followed me from the firm. I did not tell anyone what occurred. I kept working, sorting, and documenting. Lily arrived with a flash disk with backup copies just in case. That weekend, I put it in my safe and titled it Company 2025 Final. A week later, I learned via a mutual acquaintance that Aiden was fretting about tax issues. He began contacting everyone he knew, claiming that the system had glitched and jumbled up their accounts. Typical. My parents continued to act as if nothing was wrong, informing people that payroll had been delayed due to a bureaucratic error. I didn't say anything. The truth doesn't require assistance. That night, sitting at my kitchen table, I created a new spreadsheet. I labeled it Post Company Assets, and included my balances, savings, and upcoming projects. All clean and honest. The phone vibrated again. Mom sent an SMS this time, only one line. You should fix this before it gets worse. I didn't say anything, there was nothing to correct. I turned off my phone, shut off the laptop and sat back in my chair. They created their empire via quiet and favors. I based my composition on documents. I didn't tell anyone. I just stopped lying for them. By winter, the letters started to arrive. Thick white envelopes marked with state seals and lengthy reference numbers. They headed directly to the Foster house. The first demands are for paperwork, tax revisions, and account reviews. Every week, another one came up. An acquaintance who still worked in the office informed me that the stack on Robert's desk resembled a miniature phone book. He was ranting every morning, pacing between his office and the break room, blaming clerical errors and snitches. Then it struck the rest of them. Olivia's automobile was repossessed immediately outside of her office parking lot. Someone recorded it and shared it online. She attempted to twist it with a caption. Dealing with haters and financial stress, but staying positive. The remarks were harsh. Mom rushed to Facebook again, stating that the unjust system was aimed at tiny family businesses. She described herself as a mother victimized by bureaucracy. Robert responded with his own diatribe about treachery by one's own blood. People uploaded screenshots of both postings along with laughing emoticons. Foster Construction was unofficially declared deceased in January. Suppliers were chatting about unpaid balances, fraudulent invoices, and missing checks. Clients pulled out of contracts. The name Foster became a warning, rather than a reference. I remained quiet. I still had copies of everything, but I didn't have to utilize them. The truth was already operating on its own. Then followed the lawsuit. A messenger arrived at my door with a hefty document branded civil complaint. The Fosters, who included my parents and Aiden, were suing me for business sabotage and willful interference with operations. I read it once. The assertions were hazy, with passion veiled in legal jargon. They sought damages, reputational restoration, and even court expenses. I dialed the number indicated for their attorney, Samuel Grant. Did you really file this? I inquired. He exhaled. They insisted. I advised against it. When's deposition? 2 weeks? He stopped before hanging up. Liam, you might actually want to come to this one. The deposition took place in a basic downtown office. No judge, no drama, just a big table, a court reporter, and a stack of papers. My parents sat on one side, arms crossed and expressions taut. Aiden appeared to have not slept for days. Olivia did not show. Their lawyer began by reciting claims about how I had disrupted systems, limited access, and caused a financial assessment in retaliation. When it was my turn, I uttered a single line. I left in July. The system started flagging vendor discrepancies in June. The formal audit kicked off in September. I didn't trigger anything. My attorney moved an item across the table. That's true, he responded. The accounting platform began auto-flagging those discrepancies in June before Mr. Foster left. The external audit engagement began in September. That sequence is documented. Robert's smile faded. Mom mumbled something beneath her breath. Aiden only gazed at the table. Their lawyer attempted to protest, but my attorney continued to speak. For the record, there is documentation of all transactions, and none point to Liam Foster as the source of the problem. The court reporter stopped long enough to feel the air leave the room. Their lawyer closed the folder. No further questions. We ended. On his way out, my attorney slipped 2 folders over the table. Refunds confirmed is marked as Exhibit A, and Clean Report R July as Exhibit B. There are no speeches, only labels. Later, Robert caught up with me in the corridor. His voice trembled. "You destroyed this family's name." I looked at him. "I didn't ruin anything. I balanced it." He didn't respond. He simply walked away, grumbling about loyalty. That afternoon, I signed my final separation paperwork. The corporation owes me unpaid vacation compensation and a tiny share of prior projects. I accepted the compensation by direct transfer alone, and that was the end of it. A week later, their counsel sent a notice of voluntary dismissal. By February, I had established my own firm, Foster Ledger Group. 1 person, 1 workstation, and 1 laptop. I didn't want crews or overhead. Simply small company clients seeking clean records and honest advice. I worked quietly from a leased office in downtown. A few old connections discovered me through word of mouth. The job wasn't showy, but it was reliable. Lily helped me set up the systems. She was already working as a freelance accountant at that point. "Feels weird starting over," she commented one night as we went over fresh client files. "It's better this way," I said. "Smaller, cleaner." She grinned. "And quieter." Exactly. The next morning I entered my modest office, brewed coffee and accessed my client dashboard. The sun caught the blinds just perfectly, and for the first time in years, I felt no obligation to anybody. They termed it a betrayal. I call it balance. I did not abandon the relationship. I just stopped lugging them across.